Hello, and welcome to this GreenPrisons webinar sponsored by CleanCore. It's a new cleaning technology using ozone. And I'm as anxious as you are, I'm sure, to find out exactly how this technology works, and more specifically how it works in the correctional setting. My name is Tommy Norris. I'm the CEO of GreenPrisons, and for those of you, and I noticed some new names on our participant list this morning, for those of you that are new to GreenPrisons, I invite you to go to our website at www.greenprisons.org and see how we try to support the sustainability effort of in corrections. I also chair the Sustainability Committee for ACA, and we'll have a little bit more on that at the end of the webinar. Before we get started, there we go. Before we get started, I've got a couple of housekeeping things. We're pretty informal here, but there's some things that we got to do to sort of keep on time and on track. There is a raise your hand icon on your dashboard that comes with the webinar that lets us know that you have a question or a comment. So whenever you have that, you can submit it. You can either raise your hand or you can type it in, which is what we would request that you do, into the questions block. If there's a question or comment during the presentation, we'll address them in specific spots. We've got a little transition piece that we have to do with a video that will give you a chance for a quick question or two, and then the bulk of the questions we'll hold for the end, so that hopefully that we can answer most of your questions in the presentation. But certainly, if there's anything that you're still curious about when this is over, we obviously encourage you to submit that question. We anticipate the webinar will go between 40 and 50 minutes, depending on the number and the kinds of questions we get, so that you can plan the remainder of your morning. And if for any reason you have to leave us, or if you want to come back and check it out to rewatch a portion of it, or to share it with a friend, the webinar will be archived on the greenprisons.org website within 72 hours. So with that, we're going to go ahead and start the formal presentation part of the webinar, and I'm going to introduce to you Steve Swift and Matt Montag of CleanCore, and they're going to talk to you a little bit about how to save a little bit of time, some money, and reduce cross-contamination. So with that, Steve, I'll turn it over to you and let you run with it.
Thank you, Tommy. Good morning, everyone. My name's Stephen Swift, and if you could go back one slide there, Tommy. There we go. This morning, you're going to hopefully learn a number of things. You're going to learn about a new method of cleaning that is called touch-free cleaning. You're going to learn about a new cleaning solution and a new way of managing your chemical needs. The cleaning solution is called aqueous ozone, and has some fairly unique benefits versus the conventional cleaning chemicals you are likely familiar with. And then finally, you're going to learn of some methodologies that are designed to help you be more efficient and more effective in your cleaning process. Ultimately, our goal is to help you save time, enhance safety, and reduce cross-contamination in the cleaning process. Today, that is one of the biggest challenges, not just the correctional industry, but the cleaning industry in general. Controlling cross-contamination is one of the biggest issues that cleaners and departments face, and hopefully you'll come away today with some ideas to help you deal with that. So with that said, let's move on into cleaning the touch-free way. As Tommy mentioned, my name is Stephen Swift. I am a sales consultant with CleanCore Technologies, and we are a manufacturer of equipment that generates the cleaning solution that I've been referring to, that's referred to as aqueous ozone. I'm a 35-year veteran in the industry. I know looking at that picture, it doesn't look like it, but trust me, I'm there. Photoshop is a wonderful tool. I have worked with some of the industry's leading companies, including the Butcher Company, Windsor Industries, HP Products, Technical Concepts, and Diversey. I'm a staunch proponent of sustainable solutions, which is one of the reasons that I work for CleanCore. I believe if there is a better, safer, healthier, a greener way to clean or to do anything for that matter, then it's worth investigating. We only have a finite amount of resources on this planet, and as stewards of those resources, we have an obligation to protect them for the generations to come. And being the proud father of two members of that generation, I've got a 9-year-old little one as well as a 19-year-old volleyball player who's currently enjoying a run in the NCAA tournament. Protecting the planet moving forward is very important to me. So those are my motivations. I'm sure everybody on this call has their own. In addition to myself, I'd like to introduce you to Matt Montag. Matt is CleanCore Technology Sales Manager. He is from Omaha, Nebraska, born and raised. Like myself, he is an industry veteran, has been around quite a while. And I should mention that having been in the industry as long as the two of us have, most of our career would have to have been spent selling the more conventional offerings in our industry, because engineered water, which you'll learn about today, is relatively new. So we both have a very keen understanding of how the industry has evolved and can speak to the benefits that some of the newer innovations in our industry bring to the table. Matt has also worked with a number of industry veterans or leaders, including Johnson Diversey. He's also worked for a number of distributors in the janitorial industry, and has even gone so far as to take a shot at owning his own business and owned a distributorship in the Omaha, Nebraska area. He too is a staunch proponent of sustainable solutions. Ultimately, I don't think you come to work for a company like CleanCore Technologies without that being a personal commitment. And finally, he is a father of 3 children. So with that, let's take a look at the agenda for today's presentation. Our agenda includes cleaning for health, engineered water, cleaning versus disinfection, conventional cleaning versus touch-free, and then a review of procedures. Now, let me go back to the beginning and touch briefly on each of these. Cleaning for health means that we're not just concerned about appearance or protecting the surfaces, which are both important reasons for cleaning, but we're concerned about the health of the environment that people reside in, both inmates, officers, administration, anybody who utilizes the facilities. We want the facility to be healthy. Engineered water is the alternative we've been speaking to for conventional chemicals, and I'll touch more on that later on in the presentation. Cleaning versus disinfection. The two processes are very distinct, but ironically, both are required in order to maintain a healthy environment. One of the key questions you'll have to ask, and will not be answered today on the phone, is what areas do you clean versus what areas do you clean and disinfect? Conventional cleaning versus touch-free. I mentioned we're going to learn about touch-free cleaning today, but we're going to look at enhancements to the conventional cleaning process and then look at touch-free cleaning in detail. And then finally, we'll review the procedures, close out the presentation, and then give everybody on this call an opportunity to ask questions and say hello. So, Tommy? Why is cleaning for health important? Why should we not just be concerned with cleaning to protect our investment in the facility and for appearance? Well, if those two are the only objectives you have, you could still have a very unhealthy environment. And there's a number of pictures on this slide, and let me tell you what each of those mean. The picture with the house references the quality of health within facilities, and a challenge that we face in all buildings, not just correctional, but all facilities, is the fact that we have made them tighter in order to make them more cost efficient to heat in the winter and cool in the summer. In doing so, the exchange of air between the interior of the building and the exterior of the building has been diminished dramatically. As a result, the contaminants that exist in the inside of the building do not get filtered out. They stay in there. So it is important for us to not only do the best we can to remove those contaminants, but also not add any contaminants to the interior of the building. Also, when it comes to conventional cleaning, there's a very key concern relating to sensitivities to perfumes and to chemicals. Probably not much of an issue within the corrections environment, but outside of the corrections environment, many businesses are required to find alternative methods of cleaning because the chemicals that are used, the conventional chemicals we've spoken of, as well as the perfumes associated with those chemicals, tend to create a problem for their guests. So finding a way to clean without creating a problem for the inhabitants of the building is important. And then finally, our viruses and bacteria and so forth. I'm sure you've all heard of MRSA outbreaks and so forth. If we don't clean for health, those become a greater issue for us. Some impediments to healthy cleaning. Cross-contamination, I referenced it earlier in the presentation, is a challenge that faces every cleaning department regardless of the facility. And the next two pictures that are about to come up will probably help to illustrate what that cross-contamination refers to. The bucket on the left, many might think was staged, was staged specifically to make a point, but the reality is the contents of a mop bucket usually looks more like the bucket on the screen than it does a clean bucket of cleaning solution. Excuse me for just a second, people. If you're mopping floors with a bucket that contains solution that looks remotely close to that, even if it just has a slight dark hue to it, then you're spreading soil from one area to another, which means you're spreading contaminants. As well, if the rags that your people are using to clean look closer to what we have here than they do a brand new rag, then what you're doing is you're taking contaminants from one area's sink and commode and wall and bar and bed, and you're moving it to another area's sink. And that's what's referred to as cross-contamination. Our goal should be to remove the contaminants without redepositing them to other areas of the facility. Some of the tools that help in making that possible, Tommy, are microfiber flat mops that rely less on a bucket full of solution and more on applying a solution to the floor and then absorbing it into the microfiber flat mop from the floor. That prevents it from being spread, as well as using microfiber cloths. Not only do microfiber cloths do an exceptional job at cleaning due to their design, but you'll likely notice that we've got a pile of microfiber cloths in assorted colors. And that's not just to appease an individual's color preferences, but having cloths of different colors is essential to making sure that cloths are only used where they're supposed to be used. And facilities will come up with a designation. So, for example, it may be that commodes and urinals are wiped with red cloths, and that's the only cloth you use on those surfaces, and you don't use that cloth on any other surfaces. That does two things. One, it simplifies training for your people, but it also provides those with supervisory responsibilities the ability to know whether or not somebody is doing the procedures as they've been dictated. Tommy? When we talk about green cleaning, and green cleaning tends to be looked at as the umbrella for the overall cleaning process when safety, health, and the environment are brought into bear. And when you reduce the cleaning impact on the indoor environment, meaning that you accomplish what you set out to accomplish, and that is the removal of soils and contaminants from the surface, but you do so without introducing chemical and perfume irritants to the environment, then you're cleaning with a minimal impact on the indoor environment. One of the reasons that green cleaning is so important is chemical sensitivities are increasing. And not only are we talking about sensitivities to the skin, but sensitivities to the eyes, as well as the respiratory system. There have been a number of articles recently published referencing the use of disinfectants contributing to CPOD in nurses. And that's just one example. So the more we can eliminate conventional chemicals and perfumes and the sensitivities they cause, the healthier that indoor environment is, the greener the cleaning we're doing. Cleaning chemicals can contribute to indoor pollution. You'll hear the term VOCs referred to later on in the presentation. That stands for volatile organic compounds. And VOCs are chemicals that are off-gassed from a number of different type of surfaces. Paints give them off. So after you recently paint an indoor environment, and Tommy, if you hit the clicker, chemicals from cleaning products give off VOCs. No, go back one. There we go. Chemicals released from modern building and furnishing materials, combustible gases from fireplaces and wood-burning stoves. I won't go through all of this in detail because obviously this is not a picture of a prison that we're looking at, but the point is that there are a number of ways in which we add contaminants or pollutants to our indoor environment that negatively impact that environment. Finally, when you are making a decision regarding the type of solution or equipment that you're going to use, look for third-party certifications. They'll help you in making the correct choices rather than having to spend hours and countless resources in trying to find the product that does the best thing for you by relying on third-party certifications. They'll help you get what you want and get you to where you want to be. Okay? Tommy? I mentioned that we would be talking about an alternative to conventional cleaning chemicals. And the topic we're going to embark upon now is one that's titled engineered water. Not sure if everybody has heard of this term, but engineered water usually refers to water that is converted into a cleaning solution on site, sometimes through the use of electricity and other additives. Engineered water is a natural alternative to man-made synthetic surfactants and chemicals. It's generated on site, so it is made in your facility and it's made on demand, so it's made when you need it. The benefit here is that you don't have to worry about the procurement process for chemicals, you don't have to manage inventory, and you only have what you need when you need it. So you don't have to tie up monies that could be used in other areas to maintain inventory. They're VOC free, so you're not contributing to pollutants within the facility, and they're safer to use. I'm sure you're all familiar with HMIS ratings. Well, those HMIS ratings are designed to tell you the risks that are associated with the chemicals that you may be using in your facility. You'll be happy to know that the engineered water solution that the two pieces of equipment on this slide generate have nothing but zeros. So there is no inherent risk associated with the use of these chemicals. There's no need to protect yourself from contact with this cleaning solution, ultimately making it safer to use. It also makes it much easier for you to manage, so you don't have to lock the ingredients, don't have to lock solutions away or keep them out of the hands of less responsible members of the community within the corrections facility, because there is no harm that can be caused associated with the use or contact with this solution. It's healthier for the indoor environment, and it reduces impact on the outdoor environment because there is no chemical that goes into the waste stream or water treatment facilities that may be associated with the effluent coming out of a correctional facility. The particular engineered water solution that CleanCore offers is referred to aqueous ozone. Ultimately, this cleaning solution that is generated is a combination of cold water and ozone gas. Ozone happens to be one of the planet's most effective oxidizing agents. It is a highly effective cleaner and exceptionally effective deodorizer. So if odors are a problem for you within your facility, it eliminates odors on contact and some of the worst odors that you might possibly encounter. And it does all of this without chemicals. So what ends up going out your drains into the waste stream is nothing but water and oxygen. With that, I'm going to turn the microphone over to Matt Montag.
Thank you, Steve. What we want to talk about next is, and there's a lot of confusion in this part, what is the difference between cleaning and disinfecting and sanitizing? All these different phrases that we use. Our goal when we clean is to remove soils and contaminants from surfaces. So if we can go ahead and advance one slide there, Tommy. When we talk about cleaning, that's exactly what we're doing. We're removing soil and contaminants from surfaces. That can be from people, from desktops, from hard surfaces, from carpeted surfaces or upholstered surfaces. We're removing soils and contaminants from any surface we're talking about. By cleaning first, and this is a really important part, it's really the difference between disinfecting and using a disinfectant. And what we mean by that is this. On every label of every disinfectant that you've got in your facility, it'll always say, surfaces must be cleaned before you can disinfect, or words to that effect. And that's been a constant for generations. Before we can kill the germs, we have to remove the soils from a surface. If we don't clean first, all we're doing with that disinfectant is cleaning a surface, because we can't kill the germs because they're prevented from reaching the germs by the soil that's on the surface. Next slide, please. So what are the terms? Disinfecting, sterilizing, sanitizing, cleaning. As it says here, sterilizing kills 100% of bacteria and viruses from the surface. We're not doing that where we're cleaning. We don't need to. If we're in an operating room in a healthcare facility, we're going to be sterilizing equipment and tools and things that we're using in that environment, but we don't need to sterilize at home or at the office when we're cleaning. We want to disinfect in many cases, and in that case, we're removing 99.999% of all the bacteria and viruses. That's a 5-log reduction, they call it. There's 1/1000th of a percent of a possible disinfectant left behind, but the EPA has set that level as a disinfectant level. Sanitizing, we sanitize a lot in the food service area or in an office area. We're killing 99.9% of all the germs and viruses that are on those surfaces. When we sanitize, we eliminate 99.9% of them. Again, it doesn't get everything, but it's a safe level. It's an acceptable level that we have set here in the United States. Cleaning, really, in many cases, we can remove all the contaminants and the germs and viruses by cleaning. Whatever is left behind, then we disinfect or we kill them separately. So when you're talking disinfecting, if your facility's protocols say we have to disinfect this surface every day, you want to look for a disinfectant that's got a broad spectrum of kill time, which means it's going to kill as many germs and viruses as it can. Not every disinfectant kills everything. There are some that'll say, this is a disinfectant, and you go to Walmart and we buy it and we use it at our house, and it may kill only 1 or 2 germs and viruses when you read the label. That's not a broad spectrum. You want to look for ones that have kill claims on all the common germs and viruses. And then the other key issue with disinfecting versus cleaning is contact time. If I have to disinfect a surface, I need to spray my disinfectant, whether it's whatever the solution is, quaternary ammoniums or a bleach or whatever, and I need to let it sit for up to 10 minutes in order to get the contact time required by the EPA for killing it. Now, there's newer technologies and disinfectants out there that have shorter dwell times, but again, if we spray a disinfectant on a surface and immediately wipe it, all we had was wet germs and then dry germs. We didn't kill the germs because the disinfectant didn't have the contact time. So there's a big difference between cleaning versus disinfecting and sterilizing. Next slide, please. All right, Steve, this is where you take over. I'm going to go back on mute.
Okay, thank you, Matt. Now we're going to embark on a look at conventional cleaning and touch-free cleaning. Our discussion is not intended to say that one is right or one is wrong. You'll see an example of touch-free cleaning simply because many of you may not have been exposed to that in the past, but the reality is that every facility probably needs to employ conventional as well as touch-free cleaning because every environment is different. Touch-free cleaning uses more water, so you have to, the environment has to be conducive to getting a lot of things wet. Tommy? So let's take a look at the procedures, the conventional procedures associated with cleaning. Assemble the tools and supplies necessary to complete the work. PPE, which stands for personal protective equipment. Have on your person protective equipment dictated by the chemicals used in the task being undertaken. We've already discussed that CleanCore's aqueous ozone doesn't require any personal protective equipment, but if you're using a disinfectant or if you decide to use conventional chemicals, they all have to some degree, a personal protective equipment requirement associated with their use. Remove inmates and personal items before cleaning if that's an option. If it's not an option, then keep it out of the way as best as possible. Now, from a methodology standpoint, there are a couple of rules of thumb that you will benefit from and that is cleaning dry to wet and top to bottom. What we mean by that is you always do your dry cleaning first. Go in, sweep the floor, remove any trash or debris before you do your wet cleaning. Logical, but we don't always think about that. And then top to bottom. And the best example is your wall. Always start at the top and work your way down. But your cleaning should always start up and work down towards the floor, and then the floor is the last surface that you clean within the environment that you're cleaning. These are just some basic rules of thumb and guidelines associated with your cleaning that everybody should follow. The first step in cleaning is to mark the area with appropriate safety signage. Usually that's just to a wet floor sign so that people know that cleaning is being done, that the surface might be slippery, and that if they do walk in the area, they should be cautious. Sweep dry debris from the area. We just talked about that. Remove that and put it in a waste receptacle. And then backflush the commode with a toilet brush. Some of you may follow this procedure, some may not. It's a very simple procedure that involves just plunging the commode brush into the trap. It lowers the water level, which makes cleaning where the water line is easier. Some people follow that, some people do not, but as the intent of today's webinar is to inform, we're sharing with you that particular procedure. And then finally, working top to bottom, apply your cleaner to walls, bars, sinks, commodes, and all other above the floor surfaces. Next, wipe surfaces clean and dry. Use cloths designated for specific surfaces. As I mentioned, microfiber is one of the most effective cloths you can use, and it does offer a variety of colors so that you can designate within your facility colors for certain applications. Next, apply disinfectant and sanitizer to high contact surfaces. Now, a high contact surface simply means a surface that we come in contact with our hands or our skin on a regular basis. So that might mean bars, it might mean sinks, the seat of the commode, etc. It doesn't make sense to disinfect surfaces that we don't come in frequent contact with, such as the floor, unless we're walking barefoot on the floor. And the key thing to keep in mind is that when you disinfect for that moment in time. And what I mean by that is there is no residual benefit that comes from your disinfectant. So if you disinfect your sink, for example, and then sneeze, those bacteria that just came out when you sneezed will start growing just as if you had never disinfected the surface. Allow the disinfectant or sanitizer to dwell for the appropriate time required. Every disinfectant has a dwell time, and it could be anywhere from 1 minute to 10 minutes. So it is important to know what the dwell time of your disinfectant is before you use it, but more importantly, before you buy it. Because in reality, if it takes 10 minutes of dwell time to kill, it's unlikely that people are going to keep the surface wet for 10 minutes in order to disinfect it. So if they're not going to follow the procedures, it's a waste of your money and resources to buy that product. You have to follow the procedures associated with the disinfectant. Tommy? After the disinfectant has dwelled for the appropriate amount of time, wipe dry the surfaces that are still wet. Mop your floors and allow to air dry. Now, if you're using a mop bucket, such as the one on the screen here, make sure that you change the solution regularly. Again, as we discussed earlier, if it's dirty solution, You're not bringing any benefit. All you're doing is introducing to a new environment the contaminants you removed from an old environment. Change the solution in the bucket if dirty, as I mentioned, and then gather tools and supplies and move on to the next area. So that whole process is repeated as you move throughout the environments within the prison or the correctional environment that need to be cleaned. So with that, let's take a look at touch-free procedures. One thing you may note on this slide is that those procedures look very similar to the conventional procedures, and in fact they are. So the first four things to consider when you're putting together your cleaning program are identical, whether it has to do with conventional cleaning or touch-free cleaning procedures. Assemble the tools and supplies necessary to complete the work. Make sure everybody involved with cleaning is wearing the appropriate personal protective equipment. Remove inmates' personal items before cleaning or move it off to the side so it's out of the way. And then finally, dry to wet and top to bottom. The touch-free procedures, again, we mark the area with appropriate safety signage, and we sweep dry debris from the area and put it into a waste receptacle. The back flushing of the commode is still a beneficial procedure. Again, just to lower the water level. It's followed sometimes, it's not at others. Again, just something to consider as you're putting together your procedures for your facility. Then you begin the process of cleaning all surfaces with the touch-free system. Now you'll notice that that system is being illustrated on the far left of the screen. You're going to see a video shortly that shows it in action. But basically, it will cover all surfaces within this environment with aqueous ozone. After that, you wipe the surfaces clean and dry, use cloths designated for specific surfaces, and you apply disinfectant and sanitizer to high-contact surfaces. Allow disinfectant, sanitizer to dwell for the appropriate time required. Wipe dry surfaces that are still wet, and then gather your tools and supplies and move on to the next area. Now, before we move on to the next slide, I do want to make a point here, and that point is that as you followed both conventional and touch-free procedures, hopefully you've noticed that there are some very similar, there are a high degree of similarities between the two. That will be beneficial in that the training that you conduct for your people does not have to be all that complicated. The only difference will be the use of that caddy that we showed a little bit ago, and you'll see here in just a moment, and versus using a spray bottle and applying your cleaner to surfaces within the environment that you're cleaning. What you may end up finding is that in your particular environment, the caddy is better suited for restrooms and showers, where conventional procedures are more applicable for within, say, for example, the prison cell. There are other environments we've been to where being able to access a prison cell and using a high degree of water doesn't present a challenge, but those will be decisions that you'll make yourself. So with that, Tommy is going to cue up that video and give you all a chance to see the touch-free system in action.
I'm sorry, I'm going to have to advance manually through these slides to get us caught up to where we need to be again. So, if
Not a problem.
real quickly, if anybody's got any questions at all as it related to this, go ahead and type them in now. I would suggest to you that you know, obviously there's some things that you have to do if it's an occupied cell in terms of removing stuff from the floor and this, that, and the other thing. But other than that, it's pretty similar to how a cell would get cleaned normally. Having seen this thing work live, I would tell you that its application in seclusion cells or mental health cells, where you may end up with other kinds of contaminants in the cell. Where you can hose down the whole cell and the walls and ceiling or whatever, gives this thing a unique quality to it, particularly when you couple that with the deodorizing qualities. Okay, we'll pick the slide presentation back up. Steve, go ahead.
All right, thank you very much. Appreciate it. For those of you who have been joining us today, I hope you heard some sound coming from your end. If not, we apologize, but at the very least, it gave you an opportunity to see how the touch-free system is implemented, and of course, as Tommy mentioned, whether a particular environment is conducive to touch-free cleaning is a decision that needs to be made on your end. So finally, the benefits of touch-free cleaning include a more thorough cleaning of the environment. One of the realities is that with a spray bottle and a rag, we tend to clean line of sight. And what I mean by that is if we see a spot on the wall, we spray it and we wipe it off. We don't take a spray bottle and spray every square inch of that wall. Well, every square inch of that wall has soil and contaminants on it and should be cleaned. So that is what touch-free cleaning brings to the party, is it completely or more thoroughly cleans the environment. It minimizes contact with the filth and contaminants in that environment because you're spraying it with aqueous ozone, which is oxidizing the contaminants, and then you're vacuuming them away. So contact is minimalized. You dramatically reduce the opportunity for cross-contamination because you have, for the same reasons that we're minimizing contact with filth and contaminants. It takes less time and effort and reduces user fatigue. And then finally, you get complete removal of contaminants from the area being cleaned. So some key takeaways from today's webinar, I hope, will include: consider safety, health, and the environment when structuring your cleaning program. As I've mentioned in the past, in the earlier parts of the presentation, cleaning to protect surfaces, cleaning for appearance, have usually been the priorities for cleaning programs. But in today's world, cleaning for safety, health, and the environment should be equal considerations when developing your program. Cleaning for health benefits not only the inmates, not only the officers, but everyone. Everyone who enters the facility will benefit by having a healthier indoor environment. Cleaning first ensures disinfection effectiveness. If that's your goal, if you believe that to be a challenge, I've spoke with one warden, and his concern was disinfecting the plastic mattresses. And he was very surprised to learn that his people should be cleaning those mattresses first before application of disinfectant. Again, if disinfection is a concern. And then finally, consider your options when deciding between conventional and touch-free cleaning. Ultimately, you should never put together a cleaning program without touring the areas that are going to be exposed to that cleaning program. So you want to make sure that you apply the appropriate procedures based on the environment and based on whether or not that environment is going to be more conducive to conventional or touch-free procedures. With that, I would like to thank everyone who joined us. Hello?
Yeah. You there?
Oh, did you make us go backwards, Tommy?
No. I don't think I did. Didn't intend to anyway. No.
Yeah, we're back. Yeah, we need to go forward. Click forward one more time.
Okay, there we are.
There we go. There we go. So thank you all for joining us today. I know you have busy schedules and pressing responsibilities, and to take time from that to join us is very important. I am with, as I mentioned earlier, CleanCore Technologies, and you'll find on this slide our contact information, our website, as well as our Twitter feed. Feel free to reach out to myself or to Matt. Tommy, is it possible, or Tommy will be able to provide our contact information, but if you would like to see the touch-free system demonstrated in your facility, or if you would like to just learn about aqueous ozone and whether or not as an alternative to conventional chemicals it's something you should consider, please reach out to us. We're happy to come to your facility and demonstrate for you the benefits that the system provides. So with that,
well, we've got a couple of questions, Steve. Before we,
okay.
Tim Cowan's got one, and his question is, what is the usage hours prior to unit requiring repairs or recalibration, or any of those kinds of things? Any maintenance issues, I guess, would certainly.
Understood. I'm assuming you're referring to the caddy that's used in the touch-free application, but there is, first and foremost, there is no calibration required. The process of generating aqueous ozone involves the generation of ozone from oxygen, and then through a patented Venturi system, mixing the ozone with cold water. So there is no calibration that's required with the system. However, there are elements to the caddy which will eventually require maintenance. There are filters that should periodically be cleaned. There is an air dryer that should be replaced every 6 to 12 months. Very nominal cost, about somewhere between $25 and $30 a piece. So every 6 to 12 months, that's not much in the way of cost. And then periodically, you will have to replace things like vacuum motors and pumps, but usually they have a life of anywhere from 2 to 3 years, assuming that they aren't abused.
Is there a warranty that comes with it?
Yes. The caddy, as well as the fill station, comes with a 1-year warranty, parts and labor.
Okay. Actually, we're going to offer a 2-year warranty at this point for the corrections industry.
So
that's news to you, Steve. I apologize. Yeah.
We've got 2 years. Does anybody want to offer 3? No.
Yeah, that's right.
Okay. Moving along, real quickly, because we're about to run out of time here. I also have a question from Josh Gerlach. Are there any significant challenges to cleaning in the kitchens of correctional facilities versus other facilities?
I'll answer that question with a yes, simply because the types of soils you're dealing with. I'm sorry, I may have missed something. Was that versus other type of facilities?
Yes. Corrections, as I understand the question from Josh, any difference between cleaning kitchens in correctional facilities, jails, prisons, versus other facilities, school cafeterias, hospital cafeterias, whatever?
I would say no, and I say that simply because the challenge is always the soil. You have a higher degree of soil, you have a greasier food-based soil in those environments. Now, that being said, it would be arrogant of me to assume that I've been exposed to every correctional food preparation environment that needs to be cleaned. So I'm only basing this on those that I have been exposed to versus schools and hospitals and other food preparation environments. But no, I haven't seen any challenges specific to those environments over the others. The only challenges is that they're more heavily soiled environments than other parts of the facility.
All righty, and real quickly, James Nelson, I noticed you had your hand up, but I don't have a question. Thanks from Josh, by the way. James, if you've got a question, I can unmute your microphone if you'll just raise your hand again, real quickly, because we're running low on time. And while we wait to see if we have any other questions.
Well, Tommy, if I can, one question I know that comes up in webinars is there's some confusion on what do we need to add to the water that is put into a caddy, and the answer is simply nothing. All that goes in, all that's needed to create aqueous ozone is cold tap water. There's no additives, there's no mixing of anything that anybody on staff needs to do. You fill the caddy with your cold source water from the facility, and you turn it on, and it does the rest. It's that simple.
Outstanding. All righty, we're gonna move along because we're at about 53 minutes into the program. If you get questions later on, you can certainly email me. You can email Steve or Matt. I won't know the answer to your question, but I'm happy to pass it on. But I do want to encourage you, if you're going to be at the ACA Winter Conference in Orlando in January, please come by our booths. GreenPrisons will be at the top of the GreenPrisons, or the green aisle at booth 1101, and CleanCore has gotten a booth right across the street from us, so they'll be in 1102. And drop by, let us know that you attended the webinar, and if you've got any questions that didn't get answered then, or things that you'd like to see in the next one we do, we'd certainly love to see you. And when you come to the GreenPrisons booth, tell us that you were on the webinar. We have a limited number of little tokens of our appreciation that we will be happy to share with you while they last. We also encourage you to, if you're at ACA, to come by the Sustainability Committee meeting. That's open to anybody, whether you're a participant or an exhibitor. You're encouraged to come by the Sustainability Committee meeting on Saturday at 1 p.m. And join in the discussion there. We particularly look forward to, it's open to participants or exhibitors, so don't hang back. To learn more about advertising, membership, or how to share a green experience, and we're particularly interested in hearing about those from practitioners, we encourage you to shoot me an email at tommy@greenprisons.org, and let's chat a little bit. The whole purpose of GreenPrisons is to support sustainability by practitioners in the field. So we appreciate CleanCore sponsoring today's webinar, but we also are equally eager to hear from those of you who are doing the job out in the institution. Our next webinar will be announced on our website and through our newsletter. You'll hear about it and on all the social media platforms as well. So you can like us on Facebook, link up to us on LinkedIn, follow me on Twitter. But we encourage you to stay in touch and to share your experiences with us. So with that, a thank you to Steve and Matt and to the CleanCore folks. We encourage you to reach out to them, and we look forward to having you on board at our next webinar. Thank you all very much.
Thanks, everyone. Bye.
Organizer standby. We still got 4 people. Okay, Steve, Matt, we've still got 3 people on. Why don't we do this? Why don't we go ahead and shut this down? And if you guys have got anything for me, give me a call.
Got it.
Okay.
Thanks for your
Sounds
help.
like a plan.
All right.
Thanks, guys. Appreciate it.
Take care.
Bye-bye.